Good morning, everyone. This morning, federal RICO conspiracy charges were unsealed against 26 members of the Dominican-based Trinitarios gang, a transnational criminal organization operating in Massachusetts, who are alleged to be responsible for 5 murders and 19 attempted murders. Over the past decade, the Trinitarios have allegedly participated in at least 15 murders, 30 attempted murders, armed robbery, assault, kidnapping, firearm trafficking, witness tampering, retaliation, and extortion. Today's charges are part of a 2-year-long investigation during which our office charged 56 members of the Trinitarios with RICO conspiracy and other charges to systematically dismantle and decimate the gang in Massachusetts. The Trinitarios recruit new members by targeting legal immigrants and illegal aliens from the Dominican Republic, particularly juveniles in local high schools in Lawrence and Lynn, appealing to their shared Spanish language, culture, and Dominican patriotism. For far too long, the Trinitarios have wreaked havoc and instilled fear in our communities. That ends today. The defendants charged today are alleged to be members of Lawrence, Haverhill, and Boston chapters of the Trinitarios and part of a large, violent drug and firearm trafficking enterprise that spanned across state lines from Massachusetts to Maine and New Hampshire. Today's charges allege that the leader of the Lawrence chapter and other senior members of the Trinitarios are responsible for 5 homicides and 19 attempted murders. Back in February of 2025, we announced charges against 22 members of the Trinitarios Lynn chapter, including the alleged state supreme of Massachusetts and the second in command. Since then, 2 defendants charged in that indictment have been extradited to the United States from Honduras to face RICO charges involving several alleged murders. Despite those 22 arrests and serious charges being filed, our work was not done. On the contrary, investigators jumped right back in following the February 2025 takedown to focus on dismantling the Trinitarios Lawrence chapter. Investigators tapped every resource available to them, including using cooperating witnesses to consensually record some of the defendants' damning conversations. The collaborative and tireless efforts of law enforcement agencies and prosecutors in my office produced significant evidence that supports the charged offenses. Details of the violence and bravado of the 26 alleged Trinitarios gang members charged today are laid out in the superseding indictment and a 465-page affidavit, both of which were unsealed earlier this morning. As you read through the filings, you will see the boldness and hubris, which is quite frankly astounding. It appears the charged defendants believed they were immune from prosecution. They were wrong. In one recorded call, a charged defendant, Jahir Davila, allegedly discussed murdering a government cooperator and what he would do if the cooperator went to jail. He stated, what I do know is that if we end up at the feds, we're not doing what those Lynn guys are doing. They ratted and they're free. I'll be executing people inside here for real. In another recorded call, Yurdali Euro, the leader of the Lawrence chapter, allegedly stated, we will run this city. I choose violence. Euro was arrested this morning at his residence in Lawrence, where agents recovered a large bag containing high-capacity firearms, large amounts of ammunition, and almost 2 kilograms of cocaine and fentanyl. Simultaneously this morning, as part of a companion case, ATF agents executed a search warrant at a residence in New Hampshire, where they seized over a dozen firearms. They arrested 4 defendants, including one who is an alleged firearm manufacturer who was part of the organization that sold firearms, some of which were trafficked to the Trinitarios. The charged Trinitarios defendants boasted about their violence and gang affiliation on social media, posting photos and music videos. They talked about structure for the gang, identifying members for security, a spokesman, an enforcer, and even a treasurer. They discussed finding a location that the gang could use to administer beatings and shootings. The Trinitario members allegedly had a plan for punishment for those who didn't fall in line. And there were rules that the person being beaten had to follow. For example, The individual being struck needed to hold up two guns gang sign while being hit. If his arms fell or the gang sign was not maintained during the punishment, the beating started over. One such alleged beating was captured on a recording by a cooperating witness. In another recording, Euro allegedly voiced conflicting feelings about promoting charged defendant Davila, a member who had allegedly already participated in multiple murders. And Euro did not want to advance, quote, a serial killer. At the same time, he allegedly boasted about the member being a star who could influence people to do things that a normal person wouldn't do themselves. In case you're wondering, Euro ultimately approved and promoted Davila, who until today served as the discipline and security for the gang. These and other recorded conversations are not only evidence of the alleged crimes charged in the superseding indictment, they also provide detailed insight into one of the most violent gangs in Massachusetts. Through the investigation, we learned about the gang's structure, their motivation, and their arrogance. They spoke openly and moved freely without fear of consequences, until today. Today's takedown marks the culmination of an investigation over the course of the past 2 years that has resulted in 14 cases charging a total of 56 leaders, members, and associates of the Trinitarios. These cases involve 15 murders allegedly committed by these members over the last 10 years. Through these arrests, law enforcement has decimated the Trinitarios' hold on the communities in Lawrence and Lynn, and stemmed the gang's violence and drug trafficking across much of New England. I believe we have made the cities of Lawrence, Lynn, and Haverhill safer. I want to commend the many federal, state, and local agents and investigators who worked on this investigation, along with the Essex County District Attorney's Office, for their continued partnership in this long-term investigation. This investigation is emblematic of the excellent results we can achieve through the cooperation and partnership among the agencies of the Homeland Security Task Force. I turn it over to HSI.
Good morning. Thank you, U.S. Attorney Foley. My name is Jeffrey Grimming. I'm the Acting Special Agent in charge for Homeland Security Investigations here in New England and the Co-Director of the Homeland Security Task Force. I am proud to stand here as HSI and the Homeland Security Task Force join our partners in announcing yet another victory in our fight against transnational gang violence in Massachusetts. Massachusetts communities are safer following the execution of judicially authorized enforcement operations. I'm pleased to report that this is a coordinated effort between federal, state, and local law enforcement under the HSTF. We have dismantled the leadership and fully disrupted the criminal operations of the Trinitarios, a transnational gang operating in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and surrounding communities. These enforcement actions included the arrest of 24 alleged violent Trinitario gang members. Among those now in custody are Trinitario leaders and members allegedly responsible for a series of violent crimes, including homicides, attempted homicides, shootings, kidnappings, robberies, and other horrific acts of violence. The Trinitarios have inflicted senseless violence and terror upon our communities, from drug trafficking and gun violence to kidnapping and murder, all in furtherance of the racketeering conspiracy, which extended beyond the borders of the United States, as alleged in the indictment. We have made a number of those weapons available here today to underscore the significance the violence and destruction has inflicted on our communities here in Massachusetts. Since February 2025, HSI and our partners have arrested over 50 members and associates of the Trinitarios gang. These victories are only possible through our partnerships. The Homeland Security Task Force is a United States government partnership dedicated to eliminating criminal cartels, transnational gangs, and transnational criminal organizations that fuel the violence and threaten the safety and security of our communities throughout the United States and right here in Massachusetts. We are facing more dangerous, more violent, more complex crimes than ever. But HSI and the Homeland Security Task Force are ready to meet those challenges alongside our partners. The people of Massachusetts deserve safe streets. Today's message is clear. We have the resources, we have the capabilities, and we have the patience. To those who wish to inflict violence and harm on our communities, we are coming for you. I'd like to thank our Homeland Security Task Force partners and the leadership of U.S. Attorney Foley and the Essex County District Attorney's Office for bringing this complex investigation to a conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning. My name is Ted Dox. I'm the Special Agent in charge of FBI Boston. This summer, the heat is on for anyone trafficking illegal firearms, drugs, and committing acts of violence in Massachusetts and beyond. Today's operation shows just how serious this team is about crushing violent crime. Roughly 250 special agents and task force officers came together to take down 26 members of an extremely violent Dominican street gang who believed they could operate above the law. As a result, more than 24 dangerous individuals are now off the streets. At least 30 illegal firearms has been seized, and kilos of deadly drugs will no longer reach our neighborhoods. Everyone arrested today are alleged to be a part of the Lawrence, Haverhill, and Boston chapters of the Trinitarios, which is an organized, transnational criminal enterprise that has fueled addiction, violence, intimidation, and fear. They've been indicted in connection with 5 murders, 19 attempted murders, and armed home invasions in Massachusetts and in Maine. We believe their flagrant disregard for public safety has threatened the safety of our entire region. Today's arrests should make it clear gangs that poison our streets, terrorize our communities, and boast about it on online videos will not go unchecked. We will use every tool available to include the RICO statute to dismantle these enterprises from the top down. So how did we get here? 2.5 years ago, the FBI's North Shore Gang Task Force, in coordination with FBI's Southern Maine Gang Task Force, joined forces with our law enforcement partners to initiate a complex investigation targeting the leaders, the members, and close associates of the Trinitarios. We didn't look for a quick fix here. We put in the work to do the hard, complex investigations we're known for. For over 2 years, day in and day out, our team utilized sophisticated tactics, including recruitment of well-placed sources within the gang, surveillance, controlled drug and firearm purchases, and rigorous intelligence gathering to build an airtight case. This is our 4th takedown targeting the Trinitarios since 2019. And if these alleged gang members and their associates, they attempt to regroup, recruit, or continue their alleged crime sprees, make no mistake, we will continue to investigate, disrupt, and bring them to justice to make our communities safer and stronger. So why does it matter? It matters because of the toxic ripple effect that rampant drug and violent crimes has on our neighborhoods. The law-abiding people who live and work here deserve better. You should not feel abandoned in your own communities. You should not be forced to witness open-air drug dealing. And you should not accept violence and derivative criminal activity as part of your everyday life. We know the devastation that drugs like fentanyl, cocaine, and meth can cause on a daily basis, destroying families, fueling violence, and stealing futures. In fact, we seized enough fentanyl over the course of this investigation to kill a staggering 1 million people, which is a little more than the entire population of Essex County. Think about that for 1 minute. It certainly hits home the positive impact this investigation has already had on our neighborhoods and communities. I want to give my sincere thanks to FBI Boston special agents, analysts, and task force officers for their hard work and dedication. I also want to thank HSI, the Massachusetts State Police, U.S. Attorney Leah Foley, and Essex County DA Tucker, and their teams for their collaboration and partnership. This was truly a team effort. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Colonel Noble.
Thank you, Special Agent in Charge, Docs. Good morning. My name is Jeff Noble. I serve as the Colonel of the Massachusetts State Police. I stood here last year at the completion of phase 1 of this operation, and I stand here today at the completion of phase 2 with the same clear message. Deadly gang violence and illegal gun activity and drug distribution have no place in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The results of this investigation prove just that. For more than a decade, the Trinitarios have been linked to some of the most serious and violent crimes in Essex County. Murders, shootings, kidnappings, and organized drug trafficking. These are all acts of violence designed to intimidate communities and the people who call them home. Last year, we were laser focused on the Trinitarios operating out of Lynn, and today, we set our sights on those based in Lawrence as part of our continued effort to dismantle this violent criminal organization. Troopers from the Massachusetts State Police Detective Unit assigned to the Essex County District Attorney's Office, working alongside our local county, state, federal partners, made it their mission to identify those responsible for this violence and bring them to justice. They have remained relentless in that pursuit, following every lead, analyzing every connection, and working tirelessly to ensure that every homicide that we believe is connected to this organization is thoroughly investigated and brought towards resolution. That we owe to the communities and, most importantly, to the victims' families. Removing dangerous criminals from our street is essential. Equally important is providing the victims and their families with a measure of justice, because we know that behind every homicide is a loved one whose life was taken, a family that was forever changed, and a community searching for answers. They deserve to see those responsible answer for their actions. Operations and investigations of this magnitude are complex. I want to commend the detectives, the troopers, the law enforcement officers, the special agents who've dedicated years to this investigation. It is their professionalism, their persistence, and their attention to every detail that make today's announcement possible. The numbers speak for themselves. Nearly 3 years of investigative work focused on 15 homicides, resulting cumulatively in 56 RICO-related charges, and in today's announcement alone, 26 additional defendants alleged to be operating on behalf of this violent gang. They will now face accountability for their actions. Executing warrants in cases like this also requires meticulous planning, precision, and flawless coordination. It is dangerous work, but it is work that members of the Massachusetts State Police and our partners perform every day with courage, with professionalism, and an unwavering commitment to uncovering the truth, pursuing justice, and protecting the public. This operation is also a testament to the power of partnership. Success on this scale is only possible when law enforcement and prosecutors at every level come together with one shared mission. I extend my sincere gratitude toward our partners at HSI, the FBI, the Essex County District Attorney's Office, the United States Attorney's Office, the Essex County Sheriff's Departments, and the Lawrence, Haverhill, and Methuen Police Departments for their outstanding collaboration throughout this investigation. Together, we will continue to hit the streets, like you just heard. There is no victory lap. Our resolve is steadfast and will remain steadfast to protect our communities, to ensure that everyone who lives in Massachusetts can feel confident that their law enforcement officers are fighting to keep their cities and towns safe from dangerous and deadly gang violence. Gang violence thrives when criminals believe they can operate without consequence. Today's arrests should send a clear message. If you bring violence to our communities, we will find you. We will dismantle your organization, and you will face justice. It's now my honor to turn it over to Essex County District Attorney Tucker.
Thank you, Colonel. Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Tucker. I'm the District Attorney for Essex County. A year ago, February, we stood here together in unison as we are today, and I began my remarks by saying, this is a good day in Essex County. I can say the same thing today because of the people that you see assembled here. Special and sincere thanks to our U.S. Attorney, Attorney Leah Foley, and her leadership team, and our federal partners, and as Colonel Noble said, our great Massachusetts State Police. I want to thank them all for their continued collaboration after the tremendous success that we had in February of 2025. We have replicated it today and then some. The strong work culminates with more murders solved, more guns and drugs taken off the street, and the individuals charged in these crimes are now in custody. The people charged today can best be described as reckless and ruthless. They are responsible for numerous fatal and non-fatal shootings on busy streets and in dense neighborhoods, outside nightclubs at closing time, with no regard for innocent bystanders. In one fatal attack, the girlfriend of a gang member was shot and killed in a vehicle. The vehicle was riddled with bullets. In the back seat, in a car seat, was her 6-month-old infant. Miraculously, that child was not hurt. And when I say that these groups are ruthless and reckless, that's but one example of many. These indictments detail how vulnerable communities were preyed upon, causing loss of life, physical and emotional trauma with lasting consequences. While these heinous crimes may have been carried out over the past decade, the pain, the fear, and the impact on affected families and the communities of Lawrence, Methuen, Haverhill, and Lynn remain to today. Today marks an important step toward healing and accountability. These arrests and the superseding indictments reflect the dedicated, continued commitment and extraordinary collaboration of investigators and prosecutors from the federal and state agencies involved. In partnership, our respective agencies work tirelessly to hold 56 individuals accountable. I want to particularly recognize and thank Essex County Assistant District Attorney Jess Strasnick. She's our chief of our homicide unit, who together with AUSA Phil Mallard, doing incredible work, they were the quarterbacks of this impressive team of investigators. The excellence of ADA Strasnick's efforts represent the office's commitment, the Essex County District Attorney's mission in keeping our community safe and holding offenders accountable. I also want to recognize and commend our Essex County State Police Detective Unit, under the command of Detective Lieutenant Robert DeMayo, Detective Sergeant David Strong, and Trooper Matt Murphy. They have been key members of this team since the inception of this investigation. Our state police detectives work every day under challenging and dangerous circumstances, and they focus with our ADAs, sending a strong message that violence which compromises the safety of Essex County residents will never be tolerated. Thank you.
Take some questions.
Earlier last year, when in February 25, when you had that round of arrests, did you notice what happened with these people? Did they change their behavior? Did it impact them, or was it business as usual and then you were able to hear them talking? Did they ever talk about the arrest in February?
Well, they mentioned some of the arrests in February, the Lynn guys who they believed had ratted them out and pretty much planned to murder them if they were arrested by feds.
What does that tell you about this organization, the big arrest that lost last February, and I guess business as usual, right?
There's no doubt they were operating under a perceived notion of impunity. They're wrong. We continued the investigation. We turned from Lynn to Lawrence methodically because we knew that that chapter also was conducting the same types of murders, armed robberies, harassment, extortion. And through this investigation, as discussed today, we believe that we have decimated the entire chapter.
U.S. Attorney, thank you for the show and tell. We don't always have that from your predecessors. How is the Trinitarios different from OC units in the past that your predecessors have gone after?
So the Trinitarios are structured, and they're also just completely reckless. The numbers of shootings that occurred in public places, as you're watching right now on the videos, and as explained by the district attorney, just shooting up cars in broad daylight and in public streets, that differentiates them. They literally did not think there were going to be any consequences for their actions.
Do you believe there are chapters in other Massachusetts cities?
You know, if they are, we're going to find them and eradicate them.
Can you talk more about the recruitment? I know you mentioned high schools are definitely an issue that's been ongoing, and how has that changed since the 2025 takedown, and are the kids and teens still looking up to the gang?
Well, they're not going to have any leadership to look up to anymore because we have taken them all down and arrested them. And we will continue to always offer to work with school districts to assist them with identifying these types of recruitment efforts that are taking place in their schools and offer them resources that they can help identify those people and eradicate that from happening.
Can you speak to the paddle?
That was the paddle, the punishment paddle. When somebody broke a rule, was not falling in line, they would suffer a beating with that paddle. And that was the rules. The person being beaten had to hold up the guns. And if they didn't, the beating would start over.
How about the beads?
The beads are just, that is their bling, their gang signs. It represents the colors of the Dominican flag and differentiates themselves from other gangs.
Was there brazenness on social media actually found in your investigations?
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, it's one thing to record someone when they don't think they're being recorded. It's another thing for us to see these public displays on the internet and on social media pages as kind of like a threat, you know, come get me if you can. And we took the bait.
How about the 26 that were indicted? What was their status? Were they some arrested today? Were they in custody, et cetera?
There were some who were in custody and 9 were arrested from the streets today.
How about in terms of, you know, you talked about decimated, and I know you sort of said there are more chapters, but what's the status of this gang here? Is it gone completely from Massachusetts as a result of this investigation of the last couple of years?
We believe through the arrests in February 25 and today that their entire leadership has been taken out. If they try to resurrect themselves, we will take them out again.
9 arrested today, some were already in custody. Are there some out there who you're still looking for?
No.
Can you just explain this? So there's 40 in this indictment, and but you had said there's 56 that have gotten in total. Could you just explain those numbers?
So 56, throughout this operation that's lasted for 2 years, 56 total members, leaders, and associates of the Trinitarios have been charged federally in 14 separate charging documents, one of which is the indictment from today.
Is this the largest, most dangerous gang in Massachusetts?
Definitely. And again, going back to some gangs would lure people to an isolated location and use a machete to take them out. These members were shooting up cars in public places, and innocent bystanders were affected and killed.
What's your message to the people of Lawrence? I mean, do you think they'll see a measurable difference from these arrests?
I believe it's accurate to say that the residents of Lynn saw a demonstrable decline in street violence and in murders from February 2025. What we say to Lawrence, we believe that this is going to have a measurable impact on the safety of your community.
Where do these guns come from? Who did they belong to originally?
These are guns that have either been seized directly from members who have been previously arrested, search warrants that have been executed, or guns that were being trafficked that were intercepted.
And these are since last February? These are your guns and drugs?
Yes, yes. The kilos that were seized today, approximately 2 kilos of cocaine and fentanyl, 3 high-powered capacity firearms that were recovered from Yarrow's residence, and an additional 14 or so firearms that were recovered in New Hampshire.
And you mentioned cooperating witnesses. Can you talk about the impact that previous arrests have on your ability to keep the investigation going?
The cooperation of those who were arrested previously provided significant assistance in gathering the evidence that we needed to bring the charges today.
Are there other gangs that would be likely to want to move in and fill the vacuum there in the drug trade? And one of the prospects among those gangs is just open gang warfare right now over a very lucrative trade that is now up for grabs.
We are all aware of who the rival gang was for the Trinitarios, the Gangster Disciples. If they try, they will end up in the same fate.
The disciples,
The Gangster Disciples.
gangster disciples.
You had 2 phases of this. Do you anticipate a 3rd phase, or are you done?
We'll see. If we believe a 3rd phase is warranted, it will be coming.
Can you speak
We're
more
never
on-
going to stop trying to make the communities of this state, of this Commonwealth, safer.
you speak more on the other states affecting this, like Maine and New York, and just if, as they mentioned, leadership vacuums, if there are any other leadership in other states that are other chapters of still Trinitarios that may come in that we're concerned about?
We will keep an eye on and our ear to the ground, and if they do, again, they will suffer the same fate as these people.
What are the penalties that, most severe penalties, that these people are looking at? And any of these, the federal death penalty, even a remote possibility?
It is, and we will assess whether that will be sought or not, as the case is now developing post-indictment. But many of the defendants are facing 20-year mandatory minimums for the RICO charges based on the drug trafficking quantities and just alleged murders.
There could be death penalties attached to some of these?
Based as charged, there, and this, you know, we
Right.
supersede, there could be.
Can you talk about the arrests, just the ones this morning? Is there anything notable about them? How'd they go down? Whoever lost the shotgun.
So, luckily, everyone was safe. All of our men and women who bravely went into these residences, known to be occupied by violent murderers, came out safe. There were numerous guns that were seized, as discussed, and drugs and presses to manufacture drugs. But everyone, it all went smoothly. And we were out for 9, and we got 9.
Who was the highest ranking one today that was taken into custody? You know?
Yordo was the leader of the Lawrence chapter.
What's the symbolism behind the name Operation Paper Machete? Is there such?
We don't usually comment. Any other questions?
Just how big, it's a question about how big a player they were in the drug trade in Merrimack Valley up in New Hampshire and up in Maine. Have you been able to determine how much a percentage of fentanyl that's been going through this area that they were responsible for, this gang?
I don't believe we know the exact quantities, but just given that the chapter needed a treasurer speaks volumes to, you know, the organizational structure, and their primary profit was made from selling drugs.
What's the next step for these people arrested or the investigation? What's next?
They'll have their day in court.
You speak to the difference between this gang and rival gangs or disciples. Is it structural, main difference in terms of who they target them? Or?
I think the brazenness of this gang is what differentiates them most. And again, they weren't trying to operate quietly. There's some gang members of rival gangs who go to work in the morning and then participate in gang activities in the afternoon. This gang literally was operating with impunity. They were extorting businesses in Lawrence. They were actively trying to find and murder cooperators or anybody who was going to possibly impede with their organizational purpose, which was to continue to commit crimes.
How young the youngest person you've either indicted or arrested is?
16.
And what do the videos show? And how many of these videos are we going to be getting? 3. And what do they show? What community? But are they all in Lawrence?
Yes.
Yeah, these Lawrence and within the dates are on them, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.